Hi guys, this is Jason from VosbergTechCenter.com. I'll have my video guy go like this, VosbergTechCenter.com, and he'll enter it in underneath my handle. I'm going to go like this again. Good, okay, we're back. We're going to go into phase 2, assembling the computer. First things first, we've taken our motherboard out of the box and we're going to use the static paper. This is going to make sure that any electricity or any kind of static will not get to our motherboard as we're building it. We're going to lay the static paper down first, and then we're going to put the motherboard on top of it. So first things, we're going to put the processor in, okay? If you look at the motherboard, come on, zoom in here. Look at the motherboard, you're going to see this little handle. You're going to pop this little handle out and you're going to pull it up. That's going to open the little holes for the processor to sit. Now we're going to grab the processor. On the processor itself, you're going to notice this little triangle up in the corner. The triangle up in the corner is going to match the little triangle on the motherboard sitting right here. And we are going to make those match up. It's an easy way to do it. Don't be afraid of the processor, but you do have to be gentle with it. Okay? On the bottom of the processor, you're going to have these itty bitty little pegs here. You can't get any of those pegs bent. You can't bend them any at all. If you bend one of them, we got issues. And so basically, we're just going to match up the triangle to the triangle, and that's the easiest way to do it. And so with our handle up, we're going to set the processor on there, just nice and neat, and it should just slip right into place, no resistance, no anything. As soon as it's on there, give it a little tap, make sure it's down, and then lock the handle down. And that's all you have to do. Now the processor is installed. While we got the processor there, we might as well just do the heatsink while we're at it. This is the fan or heat sink that is going to keep the processor cool. You will notice that it's got a little lever on this side, and it's going to attach from this side. It's got a power wire that's going to go to the motherboard, and then it's going to have transfer grease on the bottom. Transfer grease is very important. If you do not have transfer grease, which is this gray area right here, when you set it on the processor, it will overheat and it's going to be bad news. So we're going to go ahead and put this on right here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the motherboard and find out where the power port to this is. And so the power port's going to be right here, and we're going to try to line it up that way we don't have the wire in the way. So it doesn't really matter what angle you set this on, so I'm going to set it over here. That way the handle is going to be on the inside. And it should work just fine. That way the handle's over here, it's not in here, not going to get away, and we can run the power cord on the back side that we're not going to get any interference to it. And so we're going to set it down nice and gentle. Now remember, there's transfer grease on there, so we're not going to push it on there, okay? So basically what you do is just lift up one side and you hook it, and then you take the other side and you're going to hook it on the little flap there. Real nice and neat. And you notice how the hammer's back here. Well, when we flip this hammer forward, it's going to lock it down in place. So we've got it underneath here, and we've got it underneath there, and we're just basically going to lock it down in here just like that. And now this thing is set. And we'll go ahead and double check to make sure the tabs are on there. The tabs are set. Now this thing's really cool. Let me grab a pen and I'll show you this. Or the end of your screwdriver that you're going to use. Take your power wire and go around the edge of the screwdriver. Start right here and just wrap it like this, like in a nice little coil, okay? Just like this, and then push it down in there and keep wrapping it in a nice little coil. That way when you take it off, you see it took out all that slack, and now there's not a bunch of garbage and junk hanging off of it. And you're going to plug the power wire directly into the motherboard where it goes. Just like so. Now the processor and the heatsink are both on there nice and neat. They're tight, they're not going anywhere. Next we're going to put the memory in. So we're going to grab our memory from over here. Remember we said we had 6 gigs of G-Skill. And we're going to seat our memory in. Now in doing the memory, you've got these little flaps. You're going to open up these flaps just like this. And you'll notice in the bottom of your memory stick it's going to have indentions. The indentions are going to match up perfect on your motherboard. And so it's going to go this way. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to set them in just like this, and then you're going to push down, and they're going to snap as you push down. So we're going to push this in, that snapped into place, and we're going to push this side down. We'll snap into place. We'll go ahead and repeat the process. And make sure you hear the click. If you don't hear the click, it's not in. Get this thing nice and neat. We snap it down, and we snap it down. Right? Now, if this wasn't going to work properly, I'll just do this for show shake. I won't mess up the memory, but you'll see that when you go to put the memory in the wrong way, it will not set down in there correctly at all. The hatch line, the marks don't match up, and you'll be sitting like this. And you go to push it, and nothing will happen. So make sure you have the memory in the right way. That'll help you out. So we'll get the memory in there, snap, snap, and that's good. So right now we have the memory installed on the motherboard. We have the processor and the heatsink or the fan. And so now we're going to hook up our power supply. This is what you call posting the board. We're going to post this to make sure that this is going to work. There's no point on putting everything into your computer, all the guts, doing everything assembly, hiding all the wires, making it look nice and neat if it doesn't work. Things do come dead out of the box. I've done this for a long time, so they do. So we're going to take our power supply. It's our 530 watt Raid Max power supply. We're going to get the motherboard box out of here. And we'll put the power supply down. And we're going to have to undo this tab right now. Undo the tab. And so you're going to have the 24 pin power plug. This is going to plug directly into the motherboard, okay? So basically, it plugs in right here on the motherboard. And you see that everything is going to line up. So where the hatch mark is over the plug on the motherboard is where the hatch mark is going to go on the power plug itself. So you just stick it in nice and neat, just like so. And if you want to, you can hold onto the bottom of the motherboard so you don't try to bend it or anything like that. Make it nice and neat. And it'll just snap right over the top of it. It might not make a big clicking sound, but it does pop in, and that thing is directly installed just like that. So now we're going to look to see if the motherboard needs power, and it does need more power, and it's going to plug in right over here, this little switch right here. So we're going to grab another port, and right here off the motherboard, and we're going to plug one of these into it. And so they'll match up with all the directions. Everything will match up with all the hatches. So we're going to plug this bad boy in just like that, and that's in. So now we're going to take our power supply and we are going to plug it in. Here's my wire. Plug this in through here. And let's plug it in the back of it. Power supply is on. We need a video cable. See if we get video out of this bad boy. And here's our video cable. And if you're building a computer, you know how to plug in a video cable, but just in case you bumped your head and forgot, you just plug the video cable in the way it's supposed to go. There we go. And there's no point on tightening this down. We're just going to post this, okay? And that seems to be everything. We don't really need any other controls, but we're going to go ahead and hook up a keyboard to it just so we can get into the BIOS, okay? So we're going to go ahead and hook up this keyboard. This is a PS2 connector. It's not USB, so on the back of our motherboard here, you can see it's got a little purple PS2 connector, and we're going to plug that right into that. And so we plug in our PS2 connector to the purple, and this way it'll give us keyboard access. It'll only plug in one way. Don't try to force these. If you force it, it'll bend the pin in those PS2, and then you're screwed, okay? Get this out of here. And so what we're going to do is now we have power to the motherboard, the power supply is on, and now we're going to use the old jumper trick, okay? So take your into your screwdriver, and right over here on your motherboard there's going to say a little thing that says power on the motherboard. I don't know if you can zoom into that or not, but it's right there, and it says power on the motherboard. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to touch the prong with our screwdriver, and we're going to make it light up. And you see it light up, power supply's going, processor started, we have our indication light right here, and we're going to wait for our monitor to boot up here, and this will tell us if we post the board and what's going on. I've got my guy who's videotaping is going to go ahead and hit F2 or delete, whichever one it is, to get into the BIOS, and we're going to make sure that everything gets recognized. So there it says we have a 3.3 gigahertz processor in there. It says the new CPU is inserted to your system. Press F1 to run setup, F2 to load default, and so we're going to hit F1 and we're going to get into the BIOS. So now we're going to scroll through the BIOS and we're going to make sure that everything is recognized. So now we don't have our hard drive hooked to this, so it's not going to recognize our hard drive because there's no point on hooking it up to it right now. But basically, we're going to go through to the power, and we're going to check on power to what we got here and what's rocking. So right here it's going to tell us our temperature. We're at 29 degrees Celsius. That's a great thing. It's telling us about all our power. Everything's working just fine. We don't seem to have any issues. As we scroll back through our BIOS, we're just going to make sure that the BIOS does recognize how much memory is on board of the motherboard. And there's the system information right there, and it's going to tell us that we have 6 gigs installed. It's going to tell us our speed. It tells us that we have a tri-core 455 AMD processor, just like we said, and so everything is syncing up. So this right now, everything is working. We posted the board. We can say, hey, this thing is going to turn on. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start installing the parts inside of the computer because we know things are going to turn on. So this is all you need to do to post your motherboard to begin with. I encourage you, if you're building a computer, post your stuff first. If you don't, that's just foolish. All right, we'll be back with phase 3.